I found it. Good morning. Welcome to B Cube Sunday morning. It is Bob here. As you can see, I wrote it down right there on the screen. The we're having special times today. We have got Tom Whitmore and Karen Anderson, or KG Anderson. Karen, her, and they. And then we also have with us, Tom, would you like to go in and introduce your guests and get us started?
I would like to introduce Kayla Allen, who was at one point my co-chair on running the World Science Fiction Convention Con Jose, and has been through interesting transitions in her life, and is here to talk about the process of changing gender when you're fully mature and actually somewhat famous. Famous within a particular community, the community being the science fiction community. And I have a definition of fame that I tend to use, which is when you're famous when more people know you than you know. And Kayla was certainly in that position in the science fiction community. And therefore, we'll talk about a lot of things that are going on with that, both with personal level and with dealing with governments. So, anything else you want to add to that, Kayla?
No, we'll get into it when you get. You're going to feed me questions, I think, and we'll work on it. But yeah, it's a challenge, but it's I'm discovering that the work is very much worth it.
Many people have commented, including me and Karen, that you look much happier now than you were over the last several years.
It's true. And one of the people, I have been coming out to lots of people in my life, and one of whom is my closest living relative, my father. My sister, mother, and grandmother on that side have since passed away, but my father is in his 80s, and I came out to him in January. And I was in boy mode when I did it, and I said, Dad, I'm trans. And of course, he was stunned, and I'm holding my breath. And he said, his first words to me were, "Are you happy?" Oh, And I said, "Yes, happier than I've ever been in my life."
That's a pretty wonderful thing. And so many, trans is still relatively uncommon among older people, among people that we've built up a long set of interactions with. And many people haven't met anyone who's transitioned.
Yeah.
Or that they know has transitioned.
Correct.
And I think that one of the things that we discovered with everything that led up to gay marriage is that knowledge breeds acceptance.
I'd like to think so. I have had a very, very good experience with my friends in the fan community. As it happens, yesterday was National Coming Out Day. Now, it's not like I've not been out, but I specifically went and put over on the person I've been calling the former tenant. I went and put a post on his Facebook page saying, in case you haven't figured it out yet, if you want to stay friends with me, you're going to have to friend Kayla Allen. Here's the link. And if you're not one of my in real life friends, don't expect me to accept it, because there are too many haters and horrible people out there. And I've had a flood of friend requests since in the last day or so. But most of the people who I know, have been just great. Now, as far as the age goes, I know that I have now encountered, again, online, mostly online, but also people who I've been pointed at in fandom, older trans people transitioning, people my age, some who are older than I am, some who transitioned when they were teens and are now, but are older than I am.
Yeah.
One of the odd things out there is that there are some relatively young trans women. I'm going to say trans women because my experience of trans men is really limited. Who are in their early 20s saying, well, it's too late. I'm too old to transition. And I am not the only person who says, you're crazy. Okay. We have a little bit of a saying among us in the trans community said, the best time to transition is as soon as you realize who you were. Most people can't do that. So the second best time is now. I fall into that group.
Yeah.
I want to jump in with a question about timing. When you started, accelerated your transition about a year ago, at that time, Joe Biden was our president. He had trans individuals at the top levels of government. Things have really changed. Given that, would you have started your transition any differently or done things any differently if you had known that the political climate was going to change so rapidly?
Unfortunately, I'm only getting a little bit of what you're saying. We're hitting a little bit of a technical problem.
Oh.
It could be at my end. I don't know.
Is it
but
any
I got
better
the
now?
question.
Is it any better now?
No,
No.
I think it's internet
Let-
connectivity somewhere.
Yeah, let me try repeating it. When you started,
Well, no, I heard
Yeah,
the question, and
yeah.
and I assume you're not having any trouble hearing me.
None at all.
None.
So yeah, okay, I wouldn't. Okay, in that case, I'm actually considering it might be at your end. In any event, well, yes, but the thing that actually I call my egg cracking moment happened just a week before the election. And it was at Halloween last year when I went out to breakfast at a local restaurant. And this is a place that knew me very well. And would just often just, say, you want your usual? And one of my regular servers came in and gave me a menu. And I was dressed in a conservative blouse, a skirt, and a longer wig. And I said, I started giving my usual order and she completed. I said, you do know who I am, right? And she said, oh, yeah, but I thought you might be looking for a change. and that was a good start right there. And the other regular server, a woman who I now call my godmother, talked to me a week later about what was going on. And she got trans people, she knew it. And I live in a relatively conservative town east of Reno, Nevada. A place where the Democratic Party doesn't even bother to put up candidates for the state assembly. It's just not worth the effort. That conservative. And yet she after talking to me, she looked down at me and said, I think Kayla needs to get out more often. And I said, so you wouldn't mind if I came more often? And she said, no, not at all. You're always welcome. And that was when I knew I had some places I could go, and I started coming out more often. But let's get to your question, the politics. Well, I had hoped for the other candidate to win, but I don't think it would have necessarily changed my course. I'm deeply disappointed in that we have somebody running this country who has declared me to be illegal and everyone like me, that we are a threat to national security, that we are terrorists. That is horrible. But I'm going on with my life as best I can because I really don't think it's going to get as bad as it could be. I hope not, but if it does, well, I spent my time happy. Over the last few months, I've become more and more myself. I've done more and more things. I've lived as myself more openly, more and more. Locally, now at work as of a couple of weeks ago, and in my social community. And the more I do it, the easier it gets. And I'll say this, a lot of the things that had been scaring me, terrifying me, they didn't happen. Even in the small town I'm in, people have been real nice to me. I mean, look, there's probably a couple hundred trans people in my town based on the percentages. I probably know a couple of them.
Mhm.
The closest thing I've had to a negative experience at all anywhere has been when my godmother came to me one morning while I was having breakfast. I'd heard some loud people on the other side of the restaurant, and I don't pay attention. And she said, "Those guys who just left, you ought to know they're Trump suckers." I said, "Yeah," and they were griping at me about you, and what was I going to do about it? And I looked down on them. I scowled at them. I said, "That's my friend you're talking about." And they got real quiet. And then they finished and they left. Now, my friend did not have to do that. I mean,
Mhm.
from her point of view, the easiest thing could have been to just keep her mouth shut. But she didn't. She stood up for me. And that meant a lot to me. And it shows to me that the people around this town, even in this conservative town, may be just more in the case of with a small handful of people who are waving flags and saying, you know, Trumpity Trump over alles. Most of them just want, go ahead, you live your life, you do you. I'm living my life.
Mhm.
And that's good. I don't want to be a downer about it. I'm trying to get positive stuff. It's been pretty good, really.
Well, it's a good sign for the country, I think, when things like that happen. You'd also commented that you're about to go to England for several weeks, and it will be interesting to hear back how that particular set of dealing with bureaucracies goes. I know that we all know a fair number of trans people in England. They have them there too. So,
Well,
but
yes.
being there shouldn't be a problem, but getting across the borders may be difficult.
Yes. And one of the things that's unfortunate to me is that I am still having to travel on his passport. We are not at the point where I can even try to convert it. I do not even know if I am going to be able to convert it because there are court cases. At the moment, I do have it, but I don't have my new birth certificate yet, and I don't have my state ID card changed. We're getting much closer to that. We can come back to that later if you want. But so I have to travel in boy mode over to what is being called Turf Island,
Yeah.
Turf being the anti-trans so-called feminists. And they have the Labour government of Great Britain, which had nominally supported trans people, turned around when the UK Supreme Court essentially ruled that trans people are always the gender they were assigned at birth.
Yes.
Even if you do have legal recognition, it doesn't matter. This is a case that was pushed by extremely wealthy people in science fiction who I'm not going to name, but probably most of you have heard of, who have piles of money and hate trans people.
Mm.
The court wouldn't even listen to trans people. They only took anti-trans testimony, and they ruled the way they did. And immediately, one of the agencies of the UK government started issuing anti-trans advice. And the government is just sort of saying, oh, well, we just have to do what the agency does. And we don't know what's going to happen.
Mm.
I am staying with a trans friend of mine. I will be there in the UK for 3 weeks. And then we'll be going from her place to Bristol Con and then to the World Fantasy Con. I intend to, except for when I'm traveling back and forth from the airport and so on, I'm going to be me. My friend who is, well, it's Cheryl Morgan, and she's openly trans, although she didn't used to be until she was forced outed.
Mm.
She's worried about me. I mean, Cheryl's been transitioned for more than 30 years, and she's worrying. When she comes back home from other countries, she announces, well, they let me back in this time.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to say what's going to happen. I don't know.
You've been changing some documentation in this country. Has it been a good process? Have people been understanding, bureaucrats, and helpful?
I'm sorry, Karen. I'm only getting
Could you hear
about
me?
every fourth syllable.
Yes, I could hear you just fine. You've been going through the process of changing documents and such. Has the dealing
Well,
with bureaucracies been good or less than good or variable?
okay, changing my documents. Well, I've been doing a lot of study, and I'm going to say that one of the most surprising things was that the very first step, which is the local one in the county in which I live, was the easiest one and possibly the most expensive. Sort of a prerequisite for many of the things I wanted to do was to go ahead and get a legal name change, which, at least in this state, Nevada, is a case of you do it at the local district court level. And I looked and I filled out the papers. There was a $295 service fee. And under the law, if it's for the purpose of a gender change, you don't even have to publish it in a newspaper. Apparently, some places require they have to be published in the paper. Apparently, there's at least one state that says the name change requests have to be posted on a bulletin board outside the county courthouse and things like that. But in my case, on my 60th birthday, as it happens, the county court issued my name change routinely and just sent me that. And that was the easy part. That was the easy one. And I got some certified copies of that and began the rest of the process. The next thing to have to be done is to change my name on my Social Security records. I actually got that done a couple of days ago. I made the appointment at the beginning of September. Thanks to government efficiency cuts, it took that long to get an appointment.
Mhm.
And fortunately, at this point, Social Security is still open to people with appointments. And they saw me, and the major purpose, I mean, I had done everything online I could. The main reason I had to go in there is I had to show them the order from the county court.
Yeah.
Changing my name was not a problem. Did that routinely. But he apologetically said, and I knew this was coming, that, well, in fact, I'm going to tell you how I put it. I said, "Oh, I'm aware that His Glorious Highness, on whose name be blessings, has ordered you to not change gender markers in your records. Oh, and by the way, you will note, for the benefit of the eye in the sky, that I have not said the slightest thing complaining about our glorious leader."
Mhm.
And he looked at me wryly, and he didn't say a lot. He said, "We used to be able to change it."
Mhm.
And I got the impression that he wanted to say, "And I wish we still could."
Mhm.
Now, the good news about this is it turns out that most of the time, in most cases, including employment, they don't check on the gender marker. They're just checking the name. That was one of the steps I needed in order to begin the next step, which is getting a new driver's license slash state ID card. Nevada uses self-ID. You don't actually need any other documentation. You don't have to have had any surgeries. You don't have to have had a doctor's letter. You just have to have your Social Security number and name match the records from Social Security as part of the
Okay.
real ID process. Now, it's going to be
That's interesting. Yes.
so it'll be a week or two before I get my new Social Security card. So when I come back from the UK, I will be going to the state of Nevada to get my state ID changed. We'll see how easy that is. There's various things that have to be done. And the other state that I know of that does self-ID is California, where I was born. A few weeks ago, I filed my application to change my birth certificate, which
Mhm.
involved changing my name and my gender marker. And I got an acknowledgement from the state of California saying, "We've received it. It takes about 15 weeks to process."
Mhm.
So I may get my new birth certificate around the first of the year, I hope. And once we have that, then I hope, if the legal landscape hasn't changed, to be able to then apply for a new passport. Of course, I couldn't even start the process of the passport change while I still had international travel planned. And
Yes.
it was the only way I was traveling it by air anyway. So I got to wait. I really need to wait till I get a real ID, because then at least I'll be able to travel domestically by air.
Mhm.
We don't know what's going to happen at the federal level, but we'll try.
Yes.
There's a whole lot of other things that have to get changed, but those are the big ones.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's an interesting process, and some of us are watching along in fascination as you go through it. And
Thank you. That's one of the reasons I have been fairly open about it
mhm,
on my Facebook page and my Dream With journal, both
Yeah.
of which are limited to my friends.
mhm.
I
Yeah,
worry that some trans folks who are not as organized as you, Kayla, may just get discouraged and not file for their paperwork. It seems very complicated and discouraging.
It is. I have to thank the ACLU, which has pages on their websites about how to do this. I'm just going step by step about it and trying to get the order of events right. And yes, I am organized. And frankly, I am at the stage of my life and my career that I have enough resources to be able to throw resources at things. Money.
Mhm. And time.
And time. I do feel bad for my trans siblings who are not as well off as I am and don't have those things to do. But I'm with them. I'm for them. I want it. I want it to be better for them. I hope it gets better. I think it will, because if it gets worse, well, we're all doomed.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Well,
And I like that item in the chat. That's
yes.
good.
In fact, we postponed having you on last week because of real world, or last month rather, because of real world issues happening. We figured it'd be safer to wait just a little bit.
Yes. Yes.
Are there other resources beyond the ACLU that you would recommend people consult?
Well, there's groups like Lambda Legal. Actually, just a lot of Google searches tend to be pointing me at the right things, but my experience may not be uniform. The Facebook communities I'm in have helped, and I mean, okay, I guess I date what's called cracking my egg to last October 31st, which is the point where a trans person realizes it's time to start changing. But I've always known this was going to happen. I've known since I was a child. And that's one of the reasons I get so angry at people who say, oh, don't touch children. Children don't know anything about themselves. I said, that's stupid. Trans adults were once trans children.
Mm-hmm. Well,
I've been spending a whole lifetime studying and looking at it and talking to my trans friends and seeing what has to be done.
mm-hmm. I think there's a lot of variation, and there are a few trans children of whom that is not as obviously true. There are a few people who only learn later in life, but that's not the way to bet.
It's not uniform. There's no one trans journey.
Yeah.
And also not every child who questions their gender is trans.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sort of frustrating when you get people saying, oh, well, the moment they say they're trans, they were rolled into an operating room in the school. I said, what school has an operating room?
Yeah.
That's stupid.
Harvard Medical College.
Oh, I hadn't thought about that, but they're not an elementary school.
Yeah.
But honestly, I have no problem with what's allowing children to experiment with themselves in ways that social transition is changing your name and your clothes and maybe your hair. That's a start, and maybe it's not right for you.
Mm-hmm.
And it isn't what you wanted. Okay, but if it is, then it is a good thing for you to learn.
And I can certainly say that I've made mistakes in my life that are almost as big as not quite transitioning. And making mistakes is how we learn.
Yes.
And it's important to be able to give them room to find out that it's a mistake.
And well, yeah, and along those lines, even in this case, when I started coming out to people online, basically, and they said it was very sudden. No, it's not. But I've also been pointing out that I've not been rushing as much as you may think. So far, we are approaching one step that is not this, but so far, every step of the way has been something where, if I changed my mind and said, I'm wrong, this is the wrong path, I'm going back, I could.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've been on hormone replacement therapy now for 23 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
But if I were to stop, things would just go back to eventually. Now I got to admit, some things the hormones are having some effects on me,
Mm-hmm.
some of which are visible in this camera. I mean, I won't point them all out, but my face is changing too, and I don't just need makeup. But another thing is that I'm calmer. I mean, I can get all riled up at the trans haters, but I'm feeling better about myself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a good.
You were also commenting that you were having a relatively rare side effect of getting the sniffles from doing this.
Yeah, apparently, and this is true of both trans and cisgender people. Mostly, you'll find older cisgender women who are on hormone replacement therapy. It sometimes will boost the histamines in your system, and your nose will start running, and you'll start sneezing, which is a little annoying. Let me tell you. Now, in some cases, your body gets used to it and it stops. There may be some medications I can take. I'm going to talk to my doctor about it when I get back. Now, yeah, in the transition process, there eventually could, if you are going to proceed through physical changes, surgeries, and so on, you'll get to a non-reversible point. Mm-hmm. That's an individual decision. Everybody is different, and everybody is equally valid. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to tell other people how to be trans.
We're not interested in trying to do that at all here. What I want to do here today is sort of chronicle what your experience is as an example. I don't want to tell anyone that yours is the only way to do it. I don't want to tell anybody that any way that they try to do it is wrong. Yeah. But I do want to give examples so that people know, hey, I've heard other things from other people. Maybe it is different for different people.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I don't have a huge number of real life friends locally to me. I haven't even plugged myself into the local trans support groups. I've been meaning to do so because I went to Reno's Pride Festival that was in early September. I ended up running across people who've become friends. A local restaurant, the woman who works there most days there, turns out now she's I'm going to say, well, she's non-binary, femme presenting, turns out, but I happened to come in there after the hands-off event of the sign of which I have back there. I came by there on my way back from it, and she said, "How did that go?" And we started talking, and we really hit it off and became very close friends now. We ended up going to the No Kings event together, and we went to Reno Pride together. So that's been helpful, very helpful. In fact, she's the one who suggested that we go get our nails done together. So we had a sort of a girls' day out, she said. I laughed because she's about half my age. I said, do you mean maybe a mother-daughter outing? Anyway, so yeah. But of course, most of my friends, my real life friends, are in the science fiction fan community, of which I've been involved with for a long time. I mean, I co-chaired a Worldcon with you, Tom, and I also chaired a WesternCon a few years ago in Tonopah, Nevada. And I was also a fan guest of honor of a
Yeah.
WesterCon and of a NASFIC.
Mhm.
And I may come back to that in a moment, to both of those in a moment. Anyway, so the first convention I was going to be out as myself in was WesterCon, which was held in conjunction with Baycon.
Mhm.
And I spoke with the chair of Baycon, or I exchanged messages, and she was amazingly supportive. Heck, she sent me some of her clothes that didn't fit her anymore, but might fit me, and at least some of them did. And I've had interesting experiences with clothes because I've lost a lot of weight in the last year,
Mhm.
which is wonderful. It's been good stuff. Anyway, I not only attended WesterCon, but I was also the head of site selection at WesterCon. And so I was running an area, and I was involved in the business meeting as a participant. Now, I will be chairing next year's WesterCon business meeting.
Mhm.
So, and I ran into so many of my friends, a whole lot of whom had heard about what's going on with me, but not all of them.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time reintroducing myself. Now, I had no negative experiences. I promise you that. Now, I will say this. There are possibly people who don't like trans people, aren't interested in them. I'm not going to say everybody in science fiction fandom is going to be openly accepting. They're not. There are turfs in science fiction fandom.
Yeah.
I'm not going to name names. Those people are just, they're not talking to me, and I'm not talking to them. Okay.
Mhm.
There are people even in other areas that, I shouldn't get too deeply into that part, but WesterCon, the multiple days I spent there were the 4 days of the convention was a really wonderful experience. And I mean, I drove down there in boy mode because I figured I needed to be in that mode to show my ID and check into the hotel, which was reserved in his name. And then I ended up leaving my keys in my room. That's a different story. I'll do that. I did the same thing at Worldcon, but
Mhm.
I drove home as myself because I didn't need ID for that, and I didn't have any problem checking out of the hotel. But that's simple these days. So
Checking out is usually just dropping your key and saying, "I'm out
it
of
was
the room."
exactly that, and
Yeah.
I Worldcon was even bigger, and that's the first time you got to see me in person.
Mhm.
In both cases, both Worldcon and WesterCon, they actually made arrangements to get me 2 separate membership badges in both my names. It turns out I didn't have any need for it at WesterCon. There was a single thing at the Worldcon where I really thought it appropriate to be in boy mode in the old name. I'm not even going into the detail of it, but so I ended up with, and I also knew exactly where I needed to go in the registration area. And very fortunately, the person who was running that line is the person I'd had breakfast with as myself that morning. And when I showed up, I said, "Hi, Sharon," and she said, "Hi, Kayla. I know why you're here." Because I was special handling, and I ended up with 2 membership badges, which is good. And I was wearing one of them behind the other. I also, well, I was given, and I was just, when I saw this on the table there, my eyes lit up, and it said, "My first Worldcon."
Yes.
And I said, "Oh yeah, I want this." And so the first ribbon underneath my badge was my first Worldcon.
Mhm. And then under that, you had former World
And
Cup
then a
chair.
little bit later, I went and collected my former Worldcon chair ribbon and put that underneath it. And I spent much of the rest of the convention reintroducing myself to people and saying, "Hi there, I'm Schreiniger's fan.
Yes.
I'm simultaneously both states at once."
Mhm.
And most people didn't quite get it unless they knew who I'd been.
Mhm.
They did. I mean,
Yeah.
but others who did not had took a moment. How could you have done that? And I occasionally, I would just turn the badge around and show them the previous
Yes.
name. But I attended Worldcon, participated with it as myself. And then came the lockout. And now I learned another thing. I had left my key in the room, dressed like this. And I thought, okay, let's find out what happens. And I went to the front desk and said, I said, this is very embarrassing and possibly more so than you'll know until I tell you who I am. And I identified myself, but I wasn't carrying, well, no, now I think about it. No, I wasn't. Oh, yeah, the reason my key had been left behind because I'd left my purse in the room.
Yes.
But I did have my phone with me, which I was able to unlock and show them the name of that person. It was me. And they gave me a key to my room, and I was fine.
Mm-hmm.
And then even better, when I was changing hotels, I had to move from one hotel to another. I thought, oh, man, I'm going to have to go back and change and move. And I finally said, well, what the heck? Let's go on up to the Sheraton counter and see if they'll check me in. I did have all of my ID with me this time, and they didn't have any problem with it. Now, in Seattle, I'm not the first
Seattle.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
So anyway, another part of this, and this is a part you were involved with, Tom, there is, of course, our Society of Former WorldCon chairs, or old farts. Mm-hmm. And I sent a message to the group saying, you may have heard about this, and here are pictures of me. I hope there is no issue with me participating in our regular events, our photo, and so on. And the question, and of course, I checked with you first because I thought it had a little bit of impact on you because of our relationship.
The fact that we were co-chairs. Yeah. Yeah.
And so on the day it was involved, we, in fact, you and I helped set up the seating for it. We were getting the area for the photo shoot set up, and I was there, and a bunch of other past WorldCon chairs were there. Not all of those who were at the convention came to the photo session, but and I'm still tall, so I still end up in the back row. Mm-hmm. And we did the photo shoot and our video call out, which we do regularly. And now I happen to know that at least one of those former WorldCon chairs, at least from his online writings, denies the existence of trans people. That's unfortunate, but he's polite to me, and I'm polite to him, and we're just not going to discuss this. He's not going to attack me, and I'm not going to attack him, unless he were to come after me first.
Yeah. Well, that's not attack, that's defense.
That's defense, yeah. Yes. Well, anyway, so we sent out the picture. I sent out the pictures to our group, and I've posted them on my Flickr account. And Leslie Turek, who I have classified as the dean of the former WorldCon chairs, she's not the oldest member of the club living, but she is the oldest. She is the chair of the oldest WorldCon.
Yes, represented. Yes.
And she's the one who commented saying, I just noticed that for the first time ever since we started doing those photos, there were more women than men in the photo.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow.
And that includes me.
Mm-hmm.
I would not have called attention to it myself, but since she did, I was tremendously flattered that there was no question of it. Because it needed me. I was the casting vote.
Yeah.
And it just was really great. All these, I spent most of my time working with the Montreal WorldCon bid. I am the chair, and I mean me, Kayla, am the chair of the board of directors. That doesn't mean I'm the executive. That's the president of the corporation, but I'm the chair of the board of directors of the parent organization. And so I'm very heavily involved with the event. And I spent a lot of time talking to people at their tables and our parties. I suppose you might say I was a walking billboard for the convention's inclusivity commitment.
Yes.
And of course, we were selected, and we will hold the 2027 WorldCon. I got to wear a really wonderful dress to the Hugo Awards ceremony, and it was actually funny because I had bought it fairly early in this process, and I bought it too big. It was like 2 sizes too big. It looked like a tent. And the nurse who had been doing my laser hair removal treatments, because I have had most of the hair lasered off my face. That has really helped a whole lot. I'm going to promise you that. She pointed me at a place that had done the alterations for her wedding. And I took the dress there, and I was a little nervous because they had a fair number of what I would call right-wing leaning signage. No problem. She redid the dress, brought it down. It fits me. She's now done another one for me for another dress. She took it the other way, actually, and when I hope to wear probably in Montreal. We'll find out if that works out. So I mean, I can't. Oh, and another thing is that one of my friends had me come down to her home a couple days before the convention in her home in South Seattle. She's almost as tall as I am, and she had clothes that didn't fit her or didn't suit her anymore. And we went through her closet, and she picked out a bunch of things that she thought would suit me, and I have been wearing them. Now, many of them were for warmer weather, so I've only now started being able to wear them. And in fact, one of the things I'm going to be wearing is what I'm planning to wear when I go to the UK, because, okay, I'm not wearing a wig. I'm not wearing makeup. I will have little stud earrings because I don't want the holes to close up. But my clothing will be female. Not obviously so, in my opinion, unless you're paying attention to which way things button up. I don't see why that's a problem, honestly. I'm doing
well. Last year, Karen wanted to go to a formal night event and ended up getting a tuxedo jacket tailored for her.
I was going somewhere, and yeah, I didn't envision it being a place that I wanted to get dressed up in a female way. And I went to a men's tailor, and they made me the most amazing jacket, which I was really pleased about.
Yeah, it's sort of funny is that I had to go and buy a new suit. I didn't want to, but I had to go to an event, another trip to the UK that had been committed to as the boy self. And it was a somewhat formal event. It was the kind enough to need a suit. And I was and the suit that I had was for when I weighed 330 pounds. And I now weigh 210. There is no way I could fit into it. It was a tent.
Yeah.
So I had to go buy a suit for the wear that one time. Hey, it was I was honoring my friend. I was very happy to do so.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, you may still get to wear it as Kayla, because the big thing this year was women wearing men's formal wear.
Lost the sound. Yep. It came back for a while, but I don't know what's going on there, actually. So,
and Bob was just playing with something. What she said was, you may get to wear the suit anyway, because the big thing these days is women wearing men's formal wear.
I'm not getting enough to answer. I'm so sorry.
Can't hear you.
Interesting.
I wish I knew why. I've got a pretty good internet connection here.
And we haven't had any trouble up
too.
now. Yes. Karen's going to try to bring it.
Is it short enough? Is it something you could put in the chat so I could?
Yes.
Okay, it's something about me hearing it coming toward me. Okay. Oh, yes, I see what you mean.
Yes.
I thought that might be where you're going. Yeah, I suppose I could have the suit retailored. Now that the dress I told you about, I bought a very, very sparkly, fancy dress. I mean, and it turned out to be too small, but it was only turned out that the lining was too small. And I took it to the same alteration shop, and she fixed it. And I will say, by the way, Tom and Karen, your video has died completely on me and has for a while. The sound was just coming and going.
That's odd, because the people in the chat are saying they can hear us all and no trouble. And I'm certainly not having any trouble hearing either of you or seeing either of you.
Tom,
I'm so
Yeah.
frustrated.
hold on.
I can hear you. I can hear myself. I mean, I can hear myself, but yeah. Okay. I'm
Karen
sorry,
can
Karen.
drop out and
I've liked your questions.
she'll come back. This
I
was
can hear you now. That now I have you,
okay.
Tom. Sound came
She's
back.
going to come back as soon as she can figure you try it out. Just test reconnecting, which does make a difference sometimes.
Well, now
Yes.
you're starting to hesitate a little bit too. So we'll find out. Okay.
Yes. We've got someone commented that they can't even envision Ara Gregorian can't even envision what it would feel like to be a male/female living in another body with a frame of mind. More power to you.
Well, it's something I've had to deal with all my life, of course. And I don't have what's called severe dysphoria. But it's, and yes, Karen, it did so far, it has helped a little. Yeah, I see stuff in the chat that isn't being published, but yeah, okay. Anyway, I don't really have hugely severe dysphoria. For example, especially now that I've had the face fuzz cleared, I feel a lot better about myself. I don't see him there anymore. I suppose I've had some people who said that the former guy was personable enough and got along okay, but I don't know. You seem so much happier. And I'm going to suggest it's possible that low-grade dysphoria is what was holding me back, and just I was very restrained that way. And yeah, I mean, I could be excitable and happy and chaired a WorldCon and a WesternCon, and it was a role to portray, you might say. But it's made my life better to be the person I always really felt as long as I can remember that I wanted to be. And I just held back from all of the pressures, social, financial, and so forth. I mean, I'm lucky. I've transitioned on the job. I've been in the same company for 30 years. I'm a senior engineer. My coworkers are supportive. My employer has a robust trans employment policy. And I came out to them 2 weeks ago, and everything's just been fine, including being chastised by my supervisor for something I didn't do. And they said, Kayla, you need to get this done. Fair enough. It got done.
There's another level too, which is the effect on your role in your marriage and the changes that this results in for both sides in terms of the nature of the relationship.
Yeah. I think I've been very fortunate. I am a full-time work from home engineer, and I have been now for 10 years. Pre-pandemic. It wasn't a pandemic thing. It started when I transferred from one department to another in the Bay Area, and there were a couple of people there who were in my department, and then some of them left entirely, and my then manager moved to Portland, and he actually said, I know you've been looking at buying that house in Nevada. You might as well just start working from there all the time, because I had been working there. I had been planning on working there at least some of the time. And I began the process of transitioning homes, bought a home. For a year, I rented an apartment in the Bay Area that cost me more than my mortgage payments. I later bought a small RV and then would come down a week at a time, and then use the showers and kitchen at the work and so on. And at a certain point, I mean, my manager in Portland had left too. So all of my coworkers were virtual in my team. They, in fact, and they're mostly back east or in Europe or in India. We hold a meeting at 7:30 Pacific every weekday. So we hardly ever see each other, almost never in person. There's a bunch of my team I've never met in person. Rarely see them. We talk a lot. And the first time I turned the webcam on was a week Thursday when my manager said, okay, good. He has something to announce. And I said, yeah, I might as well just show you, and turned it on. And I said, hi, I'm Kayla, and my pronouns are she, her. And then there's like 4 other things that usually are the first things people ask. And I answered those. And they said, wow. You know, a couple of them said, wow, you look good. You look happy.
Mhm.
Congratulations. Yep. So it's not been an issue. And it'll be easier once we manage to change the company records entirely so that the former guy's name doesn't show up on all the chats and emails and webcams. But my pronouns are now changed on those records now, so there they go.
Oh, good.
Mind you, nobody pays attention. I changed it to they, them a year ago, and no one has said a word.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, both Karen and I decided that putting the pronouns on, in our case, where we are cis, makes it easier for people.
Yes, absolutely. And I thought I was doing that when I was putting he, him initially, and then they, them, and now she, her on my social media. Of course, you know how the haters are, the ones who said, oh, look, you have pronouns. Obviously, you're useless. You're not a strong person like I am.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Those of you who, I mean, there's my political thing on that. So those of you who have to constantly beat your chest and declare how strong you are, aren't.
Yes. Yes. Real strength is quiet.
I've had to show a fair bit of strength to do what I've been doing.
Mm-hmm. Yes. It's not easy.
No, but the journey is being worth it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to never end, honestly. It's just various pieces of it will get done, but it's a never ending one.
Yes.
So did I miss one? I think
one of the things that we talked about was how you handle the history.
Oh, yes, the history. That's right. Well, I happen to be on the committee that manages the list of past World Science Fiction conventions. Should have put a wig band on, silly girl. Mm-hmm. And I introduced myself to the team. The chair of it changed my email in there. And I brought up the question. I said, how do you want to handle the listing for the 2002 WorldCon? And that was the one we co-chaired, of course.
Yeah.
Let me see here. One of the other members of the team said, do you have an opinion? I'd like to hear it. And I said, looking back over the 80 years of WorldCons, we've had other WorldCon chairs whose names have changed. Now, in all of those cases, it's been due to marriages or ends of marriages. But I said, I think we ought to use the exact same precedent that we established for all of them, which is to include first the name under which they chaired that convention, and then in parentheses, show the revised name. And the committee agreed that was the best course. And so when they did this year's updates, because we normally do a bunch of updates right after the WorldCon because the new one's listed and so forth, the listing for Con Jose now says Tom Whitmore, comma, Kevin Stanley, paren, Kayla Allen. And that led me to a separate thing. And I have seen the question that was addressed to me in the chat, so I'm going to answer it in a minute. However, we also maintain the NASFIC list, and I was the fan guest of honor of the NASFIC in SeaTac, Washington in 2005, I guess it was. Is that right? Yeah, I guess that's the right year.
I think so.
I said he was fan guest of honor at that convention. I don't see any reason to change that. And I happen to be the person who maintains WesterCon's equivalent list, and I did the same things there. My listing as chair for WesterCon 74 has both names with the current one in parentheses, and the listing that where I was a fan guest of honor is unchanged. It just seems like the right way to handle the history on it.
Yeah, it makes sense to me too.
I want to answer the question in chat, which said, Kayla, when you speak to yourself in the quiet moments of your life, how do you address yourself? It depends on the context, honestly. Occasionally I will look at and I'll say, girl, are you, and what are you thinking? What are you doing? And I will also say, when I find myself getting too riled up and angry, I will end up saying, Kevin, shut up. You're not helping. Leave this to me. Leave this to me. Now,
Mhm.
I don't want to make it sound like I'm a multiple personality. I'm not. Okay.
Mhm.
I have the same memories. I'm sort of a different person with the same memories. Okay.
Mhm.
So there. That I don't know. I talked. If I talk to myself, it's Kayla or girl or woman or any of those things, because that's who I am now. Except when I'm chewing out the former guy.
Well, we're going to bring Bob back on to sort of end the discussion here. And,
Oh, before you finish it, I should say thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to talk here.
we'll have summing up and things like
Okay,
that.
I didn't know that. All right, thank you. I'll get back to that
But
then.
Bob is going to say a little bit about B cubed and all that, and then we'll have a moment's last words from each of us.
Yeah, it's we're going to be down at Oricon this year. That's next weekend. And Tom, you and KG gonna be there?
Oh yes, for Sunday only.
Kayla, you think you gonna be up there?
No, I'll be in that weekend. I'm traveling to the UK because I'm flying out the week before BristolCon. So I
Oh
actually
yeah,
I leave Friday and arrive Saturday next week. So and then I'll be there for 3 weeks with 2 conventions. Oh,
the
have a costume ready for Halloween in order to poke the stuffy World Fantasy Con people in the eye.
Mhm. Yeah.
oh that
Since
ought to be
costumes
fun.
are allowed on Halloween Day.
Yeah, I was listening to your talk about. I used to weigh 330 pounds, and I dropped down to about 220 for a while, and now somewhere in between. And I was listening with great interest to your discussion of the wardrobe change. And for me, it was easy. I just went to Goodwill and bought shirts off of a different size rack. But when you're, I don't know about. I buy my wife clothes occasionally, but it never occurred to me that that's a big deal from a woman's perspective. Because clothes,
Yeah.
I can just buy another long sleeve shirt and a t-shirt and a pair of blue jeans, and
Yeah.
I'm done. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was interesting. But now, like I said, we're going to be down. B Cube's going to be down at
Oricon.
and I thought I was doing the dealer's table, but somehow I've managed to mess that up. So and I'm bringing Vicky. So those of you who have been going through Vicky withdrawals, she will be there to be petted. Vicky is my pug. She travels with me. She has been to ShyCon, to WorldCon Oregon. She's been to WorldCon in Washington D.C. and a lot of other conventions. So we're looking forward to having her. And for those of you who are in Scott's Planet, I should have 5 more copies of the book there for you. It's a fun thing to get to put a new book out. This one I've been through 2 rounds of proofs on, and I'm so sorry, but it took that long, and so the proofs they're coming, so we're going to be there and do it. And those of you who were in our first book, Alternative Truths, the man behind the other camera went through, and since it was our first book, we did a terrible job of proofing. And for that, I can only say thank you, Karen and Tom. They went through and did a proof job on it before we re-released it, and I'm doing a proof job on it. And
Undoing all our work.
huh?
Undoing all our work.
Hey, it's gonna be good because you know what? We're just gonna re-release it, and when this thing comes out again, we gave a couple $1,000s to the ACLU on it. This time, approximately 90 some odd percent of all the money coming in will go to the ACLU, because we've always believed in supporting the ACLU. To date, we're a little over $6,000 to BQ Press, and I will say not BQ Press, the authors who let me publish their stories and then say, I don't want to take my money, give it to the ACLU, or the ones that say, yeah, I understand after 2 years, you're not going to pay royalties, but you will pay those royalties as earned to the ACLU. And so it's all good. So we're going for a good cause. So when you see the new Alternative Truths, buy a copy, even if you've read it before, because it's got a new cover. It's really pretty. And it'll almost all go to the ACLU, and everybody will be happy. That said, one last thing, I'm had the honor of being as you guys know, I do. Jim Wright and David Gerald are publish a lot with us, and then they appear on this podcast the end of last Sunday of every month, and they tend to say wonderful things and do wonderful things. And while I'm the editor guest of honor at RadCon this year in February, the David is the writer guest of honor, and we're flying in Jim Wright to be a special guest of honor. So it should be an opportunity to see two really great guys at a convention in RadCon, which is in the Tri-City, Washington area. And you'll get to see new pictures because I'm going to send Jim Wright out onto the river. There are some beautiful photography opportunities out there, and I just want to see what he can do with it if he decides to participate.
Karen and I are going to be there too.
And Karen and you are going to be there too. I understand that our friend from Rainforest, Deborah Godfrey, is going to be there. And I think the invite letters have all gone out, and I think there's going to be several more BQ folks there. It'll be a great convention. Now, Tom, I'm going to let you go back and rip whatever more insights you can out of your guest before we close it up.
Well, I'm just going to ask Kayla, how would you sum up what we've said today? And, what else do you want to say?
I have been so pleased at the reception I've had from almost everybody, all the people I've met in my chosen social community, because I know a couple of generations ago, they told a trans person, you're going to have to cut off all ties and create a whole new life from the beginning and forget the other person ever existed. That last 40 years made me much of who I am. Not the gender part, but my personality. So the fact that I'm able to stay with that community has been great. The fact that I have found that even in a relatively conservative area, I'm not having any problems. The folks at the local donut shop said, "Hey, Miss Kayla, come on in here." nice to see you. Oh, you look great. That kind of stuff. It's, and by the way, these are people who have figured out I'm trans, especially because I was wearing a pride lanyard on there. Um, I'm grateful that the people in my life who I believe mean the most to me they may not be necessarily thrilled. Okay. My spouse is one of them, but they're, they understand how important it is to me, and I'm getting on with my life. I suppose that this might be the point to also do the plug. And
Yep.
I will be at a Bristol Con in Bristol, England, at the Doubletree Bristol City Centre on October 25th and 26th. You can generally find me behind the Wizards Tower press table selling books. And then I will be the following week from October 30th to, I guess, yes, to October 2nd, attending.
November 2nd.
Hmm?
To November 2nd.
I said, oh, thank you. To November, yes, October 30th to November 2nd at the Brighton Metropole at the World Fantasy Con. And again, I'll be behind the table selling books and mostly dressed in red. But I actually have a pretty nice dress for a different color for the award ceremony.
Very good.
And I want to thank you again for giving me the opportunity to come out here. Tom, you had heard much of what I'd said in here today, but I'm happy to say these things to anyone who wants to hear it.
Well, I think that you've been instructive and interesting in all that you've said, and I believe that our audience feels the same way. And I'm really pleased to be able to give you a forum to talk, and to talk to a few people you wouldn't otherwise talk to. So thank you very much for coming on, and I'm sorry we had to delay you, but I think it was the right move.
Well, I thank you for coming too, and for the inspiration you can provide. My daughter and her partner have been very active in the local trans community, and I'm glad to see they have people they can look up to. And as my grandson, I shall, anyhow, he just got through playing Beetlejuice in the local production, so very proud of him. That said, you guys take care.